Yeah, guys, let's continue the OOPS topics. In the last video, we completed till this encapsulation. Now we left with abstraction, constructors, and exception handling. Now, the next topic is abstraction. So, what is mean by an abstraction? Normally, whenever we are creating any project or any software development, we'll create an abstract. Where that abstract contain what are the inputs required and what is the output that is going to be generated. So nothing but you can call it as a declaration which contain what is input and what is output. So it is not a full-fledged implementation. That is what called abstraction. In C sharp, abstraction can be achieved in two ways. One is by using abstract classes. The second one by using interfaces. Abstraction can be achieved in two ways. One is by abstract classes, another one by interfaces. Abstract classes are nothing but these classes will contain the complete methods and incomplete methods also. Incomplete means abstract methods. So since these will contain incomplete code, you cannot create an object for it. Coming to the interfaces, interfaces will contain every method is incomplete method only. So you have to do an implementation for interface, then only you can utilize. The advantage of using interface is for one particular task you can implement multiple codes. Suppose in case if I have an interface called shape, so I just want to calculate the area of the shape. That is what my motto. Then I can have a circle, then I can have a rectangle, then I can have a square. Like this I can have multiple implementations for the same particular concept. That is the advantage of using interfaces compared to abstract classes. Okay, once again I'm repeating the topic. Abstract classes will contain both complete methods and incomplete methods also. So coming to the interfaces, interfaces will contain only abstract methods, I mean incomplete methods. Okay, let's have a simple example and check whether how it is going to be. Suppose there is a class sample. I am making the class as abstract. Let's take arithmetic only. So here we have a method public void sum which require int x and int y. So here I know the code how to implement, so that I can write x plus y. Okay, now public void multiplication int x and int y. So console write line of x multiplied by y. So but here I have public void division of int x comma int y, but I don't know how to write this code example. Okay, so then you can make the method as abstract. Whenever you write you use this word abstract. Abstract can be used only in abstract classes case. Abstract methods will be there in only abstract classes. Suppose if you write in normal class, system is going to throw an error. So abstract methods always should present inside of abstract classes. So now these two are complete methods where they have implementation also, but for this method I don't have the code. That is the reason. So whenever you are mentioning a class as an abstract, that means there is a chance of having some incomplete code. So that is the reason you cannot have object for that particular. If I create object also, you will get an error. You can see cannot create instance of in abstract types or interfaces. So you cannot create an object for this. Then what is the solution? In future, whenever you have code ready to implement this particular functionality, at that time you will take a normal class. If you take abstract again, then also you cannot create any object. So demo So here I'm going to inherit abstract method. So this is a normal class, we are inheriting abstract class. Now this is liable and this is the responsible to implement what are the incomplete methods are there inside this parent class. So now this demo class is responsible for implementing incomplete methods from the class arithmetic. So here you can write the code like this: public override void div, like this you can write. Otherwise, instead of if it is one method, you can type like this. Otherwise, you can do one thing. If you take mouse on this error, whichever it is reflecting, here there is an arrow mark, you can click this. There is an option implement abstract class. Then whatever the incomplete methods are there, that structure will be formed here and you can write that code. So here x by y example. Now it will become the complete class. So by using the object of demo, I can call the sum method, I can call the multiplied method, I can call the div method also. So that demo d1 equal to new demo of, so d1 dot sum of 1020, d1 dot sum of multiply of 1020, d1 dot division of 1020. Okay, so this is how an abstract class will behave, guys. So guys, you should notice one thing: this is not 100% abstraction, this is not pure abstraction, because the problem is every time since this can contain incomplete methods, it is not allowing us to implement the code and you cannot create an object. And since it is supporting normal methods also, we cannot call this is 100% abstraction. So to achieve 100% abstraction, we are going to use the concept called interfaces, because abstract classes will support normal methods also. Then it is not an abstraction completely, it is a partial abstraction. So to achieve full abstraction, we are going to use the topic called interfaces. Interfaces also looks similar, but you have only one difference. Let me tell you that. So interfaces can be declared similar to the classes. Interface, some I arithmetic. So here I just want to implement the methods. You no need to write public, private, protected also, because it contain only abstract method, incomplete methods only. So incomplete methods you cannot access it, right? So directly you can write void sum of int x comma int y, void subtract int x comma int y, something like this. So every method is an abstract method. That is the reason you no need to mention abstract void sum, abstract void subtract. You no need to use the keyword abstract, because every method is incomplete method. Every method is an abstract method. So then what is the solution means? You can take class arithmetic where you are inheriting an interface I arithmetic. Okay, so again you will get an error because you have to implement all the methods of interface here. Earlier, whichever the method incomplete in abstract class, only that method you have to override here. But in interfaces, you have to implement all the methods, because this interface won't contain any implementation. Now if you take mouse, again arrow mark, here there is an option called implement interface. Implement interface. Then all the method description, what we can call declaration part, you will get it, and here you can implement the code for that particular. So this is how we can implement. So here normally arithmetic sum AR is equal to new arithmetic AR dot sum of subtract of 10 comma 5 AR dot sum of 10 comma 16, something like this you can call. So additionally you can do one thing. whenever you are defining the type of object along with the class type, you can also use the interface type also. You can also use interface type also, because this arithmetic class will contain all implementation of the interface. That is the reason the type also you can use it like this. Okay, so this is what the concept called abstraction. So abstract classes will give you the partial abstraction, interfaces will give you 100% abstraction. So according to the requirement, we can use which one will fit us. So suppose if you have the majority of the code, only 1-2 particular methods can need to be changed, then you can use these abstract classes. Whenever you want to feel every method will have a separate implementation, then you can choose this interfaces topic, guys. Okay, next, moving to the next topic called constructors. So constructor is a special member function, guys. Constructor is a special member function where name is similar to the class name. The name of the method will be similar to the class name, and there is no return type for the constructors. There is no return type. Normally for every method there will be a return type, void, int, sum or something, whatever. So but constructors won't have any return type, and these will get executed automatically when object is created. When you create an object, at that time automatically the constructor will get executed. Constructor will be executed only once in life cycle. So whenever you create an object, only at that time this constructor will get executed. After that, in case if you want to call like normal method, it is not possible, guys. Remember this. Let me show you instead of going with theoretically. So suppose there is a class sample. The constructor will be like this, guys. Constructor will be always in public mode. Constructor will be always, it should be in public mode, and you will have the name similar to the class name. You can write like this. You can write some code. So which code I need to write, which need to be get executed when I create object for the class. So instead of writing like this, there is a shortcut also. If you write CTOR in shortcut of constructor and tab for 2 times, you can see the constructor. Okay, so now let's see constructor invoked. I mean constructor executed. Invoked is nothing but executed. So here you can see whenever I create object sample s1 is equal to new sample, automatically this method will get executed. Now let's see this. You can see I didn't call s1 dot sample. It was executed automatically. Okay. So constructors also supports for method overloading. Constructors also support for method overloading. What is mean by method overloading? Static polymorphism. So you can have empty parameter and parameter, sorry, without parameter and with parameter also. Suppose string some str. So here I can write empty constructor invoked, parameterized constructor invoked. So we have two things. Constructors are of two types, empty constructors and parameterized constructors. So if you write like this, this is what called constructor overloading. Constructor overloading. When you are not passing anything, it will execute this one. In case if I want to invoke this parameterized constructor, so then I can write like this: sample some object is equal to new sample of whatever the input you need to pass, you can pass it here. You no need to use only string. You can use integer, double, float, decimal, boolean, or whatever the data type you want to use, you can use everything. Okay, so since here I took string, so I am passing data in string format. So by this one empty constructor will get executed, by this one parameterized constructor will get executed. You can see this empty and parameterized. So this is what a constructor, this is what the type of constructor, this is how you can make constructor overloading also. Constructor overloading also. But anyway, we are at the topic here, so I just want to cover one more topic called base keyword. So base keyword is separate. So this base keyword will be helpful to invoke or trigger. Base keyword is helpful to invoke or trigger the constructor from parent child class to parent class. If I want to call my parent class constructor, then I can use the base keyword. Let's observe carefully. So class demo1, otherwise let's take parent. So parent class constructor invoked class child where it inherits parent child class constructor invoked. Now when I create object for the parent class, parent p1 is equal to new parent. So you can see the parent class constructor will get executed, that is normal. The same constructor will get executed even at the time of child class object creation. Now you can see I am creating child object. So now you can have the same execution can be happened. You can see this too happened because of the child class. This is happened of parent class constructor. Okay, so this is normal. Now sometimes what will happen, parent class empty constructor, child class empty constructor. Here we have, suppose you require some string s1, parent class parameterized constructor invoked, child class parameterized constructor invoked. Here also some string ss. Now whenever you create with empty objects, that empty constructor will get invoked. Parent class empty constructor, from child class constructor again parent class constructor invoked, child class constructor invoked. So here if you see, in case if I want to enable this parent class constructor, so I can simply pass some sample string here, then you can see the result. So the parent class parameterized constructor invoked. From child class, if I pass, here also I am trying to call the parent this child class parameterized constructor. You can see here we are calling parent class empty constructor along with child class parameterized constructor. But now whenever I call child class parameterized constructor, I want to call parent class parameterized constructor also. Then you can keep a colon base of whatever the value you, if you write like this, it will call empty parent class constructor, this one empty parent class constructor. So whenever I pass some string, then I can call this parameterized constructor. Now you can see this parent class parameterized constructor, parent class parameterized constructor, and child class parameterized constructor. What I mean to say finally, conclusion is, the base keyword will be helpful to invoke, the base keyword will be helpful to invoke parent class constructors and parent class constructors from child class. So this is what called constructors. So I hope this topic is clear. And now let's get into the last topic of object oriented programming, that is what exception handling. So normally what is mean by an exception? Exception is nothing but an error. Exception is nothing but an error. Errors always of two types: compile time and runtime. So compile time in the sense, whenever you execute your code, so your compiler will identify the bugs where the syntax is not correct. Okay. So runtime is nothing but your code is perfect while executing the code. So due to some input problem, so suppose you are expecting string integer but user given a string. So at such time you will get errors. That errors will call as exceptions. So compile time errors will be handled by the compiler. Runtime errors should be handled by the developer itself. So that runtime errors can be handled by this exception handling method. So to handle runtime errors or exceptions, we have few predefined methods are available. By using these methods, you can able to handle such errors. So one is try, second one catch, throw, and finally. So by using these four methods, you can handle an error which is raising in the code. So let me tell you. So whenever your code flow is going on, one second, this is the one. So you are going to write the code which is having a chance to get exception. You are going to write the code which is having a chance to get exception under try function. Inside the try, you will write the code which is having a chance to get exception. Suppose this is my program flow. So then I will write the try. If there is no error, if there is, sorry, one. Yeah, if there is no error in the try block code, so then system will execute a finally block. System will execute the finally block when there is no error in the code of try. Suppose when there is an error, according to the type of error, system will execute catch block. So a single try can have multiple catch blocks. So this is the catch block 1, this is the catch block 2, so on I can use. So then again it will start executing the finally. After completing the finally, again your program flow will continue as it is. So once again I am repeating. So when there is no error in the try block, so first we are going to write the code which is having a chance, there is a chance to get error, that code we are going to write under try block. If there is no error, system will comes and directly execute finally block and it will continue. So when there is error in the try code, then according to the type of error, it will choose which catch block to execute. So after that it will continue for executing finally and it will continue the flow. So this is how you can handle an error. So one keyword is missing. If you see throw will be used to raise error by through the code itself. Suppose if the customer account balance is 10,000, he is trying to withdraw more than that one, some 15,000. Then we'll raise our own error from the code by using this throw block. Okay, throw will be used to raise an error by ourselves. So now let's see, let me write a simple program and show you what is the need of exception handling and why we use exception handling in our projects. Suppose already discussed program, enter a number, int I is equal to int dot pass of console dot readline I plus plus console write line of I. This is the simple program. So you are asking user to enter a number, after that we are incrementing that, we are going to print it on the screen back again. Now if I execute this, so if I enter proper value, it is working perfectly. But whenever we are entering wrong input, it is going to stop the program flow. So this particular errors can be handled. This is a runtime error. In syntax there is no problem. So due to the input from the end user or due to the availability of the input, we are getting some wrong values here, wrong output here. So what we need to do? So we need to handle this error by using the exception handling methodology. So as I said, under try block, you should write the code which is having a chance to get exception. Under try block, we should write the code which is having a chance to get exception. So when there is a try, you need to write either catch or finally must, otherwise it will throw an error. Like whenever there is if, then only we can write else, right? So like the same, whenever you are writing try, you should write catch or finally must. So I am going to write catch block and finally block also, catch and finally. So which method is executing, we just need to observe, right? So for that I am going to write try catch now. Let's see, I am entering the proper input, that means as per the diagram, no error case. You can see when there is no error, after try directly finally is getting executed. So when there is wrong input, that means when there is error, system will execute try, then catch, then finally. This is the order of execution. Okay. So under try block, we are going to write the code which is having a chance to get exception. That is 100% correct. So now catch will be helpful to find out the details of the error. Catch block will be helpful to find out the details of the error. So that is the reason we have a predefined superclass. Super in the sense, under that we have lot many child classes also there. So exception, some object name. So whatever the object of exception is there, from that you can get to know what are the details of the exception, in which line error generated, what is the title of error, so in which line we got the error, all details you can find by the object of this exception. So here what I am doing under catch block, I am directly printing that EX object, and let's observe what is the error it is. So you can see it is asking to enter a number. I am entering wrong input, so to go to the catch block, you can see this is what the error detail. So error title is input string was not in a correct format. So it is raised in the line number 18 and all those. So being a developer, you require all the details, but for end user, you require only this title, Whenever you want to print only the title, you can write ex.message, only the error title users can see it. Input string was not in a correct format. Guys, here if you notice one more thing, as I said, it is a super class, right? So like this, we have a lot many subclasses are there to handle errors. You can see this. Whenever there is an error, you can see here system.format exception class can handle such errors. In case if you want to write the proper catch block for this, you can write system.format exception. So what I will do here, I will do one more catch block Here I am going to use the class called format exception. Format exception error can be returned by ex.message. That means it is like a switch case. When the error class is matched with this, it will execute this one. Otherwise, it is going to execute exception block. So exception is a super one. So whatever the catch blocks are available, if anything is not matched with that, so it is going to handle by exception. And one more thing, always this catch exception block should be the last option. If you write it earlier, you will get an error, you can see, because it's a super all-in-one. It can handle every error. Then you no need to go for this one. Okay, it is like a default block in switch case. You should write it as at the ending. You should write it at ending. Okay, so format exception I can write like this: incorrect input. Either I can write the system defined exception, or else I can write by my own exception also. So now you can see you will get incorrect input error message for the end user. You can see incorrect input. So like that we have lot many predefined classes are available, guys. With the help of exception you can find out which class suits for that kind of error. Now one more I can do. So simple division program, enter first number, let's store it in some A, enter second number, let's store it in some B. So now I am trying to print console write line A by B. Maybe you people feel there is no error at all, correct? So now execute the code. So 10 and 5 output is 2, no error. Sometimes there is a chance 15 by 0, 0 is going to, whenever you divide any value by 0, so there is a chance to get an exception that can be handled by the class called divide by 0 exception class. Then what you will do, you are going to write one more catch block again. So here the class should be divide by 0 exception. Here you will write you cannot divide with 0. So like that you can go with lot many. So now this error will be printed in place of that. You cannot divide with 0. So these are predefined classes. And you have one more. Suppose there is an array string city is equal to string of city is equal to new string of, here I can directly give the values. So here let's give some Delhi, Kolkata, Pune, Chennai, etc. Just for example, okay, don't take it personally. So here enter choice, suppose some I. Here I just want to, I am trying to print city of I. So here we have index 0, 1, 2, 3, that's it. So now whenever I execute, if I enter 2, I can get the value Pune because that's the third element. If I give 6, that means I am trying to get the 7th element. Then I will get an exception, that is what index out of range exception. Index out of range exception. Again I can handle one more catch block to handle such kind of errors. So index out of range exception. Here I can write wrong index example. Wrong index. So that error message will get displayed now. So like that you can create multiple catch blocks for one try block. Okay, so this is all fine. You had a clarity. I hope you can understand how to use this try catch and finally. So finally guys, the code which you want to execute it every time, even though there is no error, so then you can use finally block. Otherwise if you feel if it is not required, you can delete also, there is no issue at all. I said for try you require either catch or finally, any one is fine. Okay, so this is how you can handle errors by using the exception handling. So in exception handling we have one more topic guys, how to create our own exception. How to create our own exception. So now I want to create my own exception. So how I can create it? So now you can see class insufficient funds exception. This is what the class I want to create. So whenever you want to create your own exception message, exception class, so you need to inherit the super class called exception. You need to inherit the predefined class, super class called exception. So here you can create a constructor. To the base class you can pass whatever the message that it need to print. So here I will print insufficient balance example. So now int balance equal to some 15,000, console write line, enter amount to withdraw, int withdraw amount is equal to in dot parse of console dot read line. So now we have what is the available balance, what is the balance he is trying to withdraw. So if withdraw amount is less than or equal to the actual balance, so balance minus equal to, that means deduct by the withdraw amount. And let's have a confirmation message also. Transaction is successful. If not, if it is more than the existing balance, then I need to raise an error. How to raise an error means throw, you can use the keyword throw, and new, whatever the exception custom exception class is there, that exception class I can take, that is insufficient funds exception. Okay, if I execute I will get error actually. Now you can observe. So available balance is 15,000, I am trying to withdraw 12,000, transaction is successful. And you can print the balance also. Available balance is, now you can see again, so 12,000, so available balance is 3,000, it is working fine. Now suppose my account balance is 15,000 but I am trying to withdraw 16,000, then I will get an exception. You are getting an exception, so this exception is stopping our program again. Instead of stopping this execution, you can surround it by try catch so that you can see the error. So surround it by try. At catch block you can use either exception class or else insufficient funds exception also you can utilize. So here you are trying to print ex completely. Now you can see 16,000, you can see insufficient funds exception. From this class we are getting, this is the error title. Now in case if you want to get only error message, dot message you can write insufficient balance. Okay, so like that you can create your own class. And one more thing, so some people what they will do here, instead of passing fixed error message, you will take some input, the same input you will pass to the base class. What is the base class? Exception class. So from this you are going to print, wherever you are throwing error, here you can write what error message it should display. Insufficient funds. You can see this one. So this is how you can create your own exception classes. This is how you can raise an error also. So this is about exception handling, guys. So I hope these are all topics are clear. OOPS is completed with this. In the next module, in the next video, we can go ahead with next topic. Thank you.